Anyone who's worked in collections in a local authority knows vulnerability. They know what it is. It's not new. But I think what we have here is a sector that has to do a lot on very little. And I think what local authorities are looking for is a really clear kind of direction on, okay, I can't do all of the things I know that will help people in a vulnerable situation. Tell me what the business case is, the outcome case is, the customer outcome case is, if I choose A over B. What is it that makes one local authority particularly good with working with one particular group and another still trying to find out the answer? So it's sharing that information. That sounds trite, but there's something in individual staff response, an organisational policy when it works really well, that is quite transformative. What we want to see within the collections sector is getting the fundamentals, the basics absolutely right. So yes, you are interested in a digital omni-channel experience. Hang on, make sure firstly that you're offering kind of a free debt advice referrals. Make sure that you've got your kind of your safeguarding and your crisis plans in place and your staff are trained and know what to do when there is a crisis. We might have cases and accounts, we might have data items. Each and every single one of them is a person living, breathing and struggling at the moment. My background's in HIV prevention and public health, so I used to have a job where I would interview people who were long-term injecting drug users. So when they began their stories, in the summer of 1984, I could sit back, soak it all up, and actually then kind of act on it as a researcher. However, if you're working in a collections department, you've got to kind of be able to focus in on the most relevant information quite quickly. That's not only going to help you collect the debt, but also help that person in the moment, because that disclosure, when someone tells you, might be the first and the last time they actually kind of open up around this. So unless we focus on relevant unpacking and relevant action, we're actually kind of missing a real huge opportunity to transform a life. A very good example of good practice is around that disclosure management. So for someone in a vulnerable situation, it's a moment of trust, hope and opportunity. They're trusting you with something really special. They're hoping that it's actually going to lead to a better outcome. From a staff member's perspective, it can be a little bit more of a fraught experience if you don't have the right things in place, because they could be worried, am I capturing this information in the right way? And am I breaching any form of kind of internal policy or kind of wider regulation? And what's really, really key around disclosure management is using a protocol or a tool that allows you to have a natural conversation, that allows you to kind of capture all of the information that you need. And there's tools out there like the Texas tool, or the IDEA tool, or the past, present, future tools. I then think about not so much about identification, or don't become obsessed by identification. Lots of the work that we do with firms and organisations is creating what you might call a disclosure environment. And that's about creating the conditions and sending the signals that if you do tell us something terrible isn't going to happen. We're going to provide you with the right kind of support. And then the last thing I'd say is kind of when we do identify, when we are looking at either data or we're listening carefully and responding, it's thinking about the most natural way to start a conversation. So in our 21 Steps guide that we've written at Bristol and at Money Advice Trust, we provide 8 different ways to start these sensitive conversations. So I would say, don't reinvent the wheel. There's plenty of stuff out there. Make it a better wheel. Give it a nicer tyre, maybe give it an alloy and polish it up and then send it back to us. Because only by exchanging information in this way, we're actually going to improve things. I don't think there's a single reason that stands out that people are tackling the vulnerability agenda. Now, cynics amongst us might say it's because the regulators are very interested in it. However, there are a range of other reasons. So one of the reasons might be the return on investment. By taking account of wider circumstance, by offering kind of longer breathing space or a different kind of collections and recovery process. Actually, in terms of kind of pence in the pound or debt owed, I get back more. A second kind of strand might be, actually, it's just the right thing to do. It kind of aligns with the values that we have as an organisation. And thirdly, I think it's often sometimes kind of a recognising this is one of the things that staff really can engage with, because everybody knows somebody who's vulnerable to some form of detriment. And we also see a huge staff response. A number of organisations that we work with will use people in user testing, like design of products, processes, journeys. But we're also seeing people looking to their staff and saying, look, we've got a range of life experience as an organisation. How can we use that as a sounding board for some of the things that we think could help? Because that's the acid test. We talk a lot about outcomes. What do customers value? What do people with lived experience value? What do vulnerable consumers value?